I'm Ric Edelman. You're lucky if you work at a place that offers a retirement plan, but what if you're self-employed? And if you have a 401k from an old employer, what's the best thing you can do with it? And someday we're all going to run out of oil. What happens to us then? We're going to talk with an energy expert whose powerful idea is literally out of this world. All that and much more on this edition of The Truth About Money.
This program is funded in part by TD Ameritrade. At TD Ameritrade, we support investors and independent registered investment advisors every day, providing access to tools, research, and educational resources that help you pursue your goals with confidence.
I'm Ed Burns. I've spent a lot of time around cameras. However, I've never actually swallowed one before. Till now. It's a camera the size of a pill that lets your doctor see inside of you. That's kind of awesome.
Technology is evolving. We believe the way to invest should evolve as well. A prospectus is available at 1-800-iShares, which includes investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal.
I'm Ric Edelman. Saving for retirement can be hard if you're self-employed. So what's the answer? Well, to me, it's just dollars and cents.
Hi, Rick. My name is Aaron, and I was wondering, how important is it to have an individual retirement account when you're self-employed?
It's even more important than for those who are employed by others, for a simple reason. When you have a job and you work for somebody else, your employer probably creates a retirement account for you, and they make it very simple and easy, and in many cases, they even contribute to that retirement account, which makes it even easier for you to save for retirement. But when you're an entrepreneur, when you are a business owner, there is nobody else helping to save for your retirement. It's one of the biggest mistakes that business owners make. You need to recognize that your future is entirely dependent on you. And that means it's vital that you, as a business owner, create your own retirement account. It's remarkably easy to do, very low cost, often free, but you must do this. And here's the best part. As a business owner, the tax law favors you. You, as a business owner, can contribute to a retirement account far more than people can put into an IRA. Far more than most employees can put into a retirement plan where they work. So yes, it's vital that you set up a retirement account as a business owner, and it's vital that you do it right now and that you fund it to the maximum possible. If you don't, you'll be spending an awful lot of time doing what you think is a job, when in fact, it's nothing more than a hobby. And here's another question that just makes dollars and cents.
Hi, Rick. Rick, we're going to college next year, and we wanted to know what was the best way to save money.
The best way to save money is to not spend any. It's really that simple. The good news about college is that it's a very homogeneous environment. All of you are roughly the same age, and all of you are roughly the same incomes, meaning none. So it's really easy for you all to do things that are at little to no cost. That's the really neat thing about college towns. They really cater to kids who don't have a whole lot of money, but who aspire to one day having a bunch. So what you really need to do is, unfortunately, the incredible obvious. Minimize your expenses. And it's hard, but you can turn it into a game. I think college kids are pretty good at turning everything into games. And you need to recognize that the less money you spend, the less debt you'll incur, and the better financial condition you'll be in upon graduation. And when it comes to college, the only thing that matters is graduation. From California's movie studios to New York's theater district, we recently asked just one question, Celebrity Edition. What's the best financial advice you ever got?
None whatsoever. And I have people who are supposed to be financially pretty shrewd, Yeah, but all the advice that they've given me so far is in the toilet.
Look, most of my life, we didn't have any money at all. So our money was invested in the Safeway and then bursar's offices. And so it's only been in recent years that there's been any money to spare. And so by the time there was money to spare, I was old enough and smart enough not to take dumb advice.
Once young adults are in the real world, how can they enjoy life and pay their bills and save for the future? I tackled that question for students at Roger Williams University.
Similar to a corporation where management tries to find the perfect balance between the debt and equity, how can an individual in their 20s find that balance, or is that even possible for us?
In terms of savings and investing?
Or even having outstanding loans, or just buying outright or a house or a car versus taking out a loan to acquire a car or a mortgage.
There are a couple of ways that you can approach the indebtedness factor. Ideally, you will not have more than 25% of your pay going toward debt. Total debt. So when you look at mortgage debt, if you're ready to buy a house, that number can increase it to 36%. But non-mortgage debt, 25 to 28% of your pay. So when you look at student loan debt, automobile debt, and other debt, no more than 25 to 28% of your pay. When you're ready to add a mortgage, that can increase it to 36% of your pay in total. If you go beyond 36% in total indebtedness, you will discover that you're house rich and cash poor. You'll buy that house, but you won't have any money to furnish it. You're not going to be able to go on vacations. It might interfere with your ability to save additionally. So you want to have a ratio between what your income is and what your debt is. And you want to be careful, because if you push the limits and then there's an interruption in your pay, say a job loss or a major unexpected expense like a medical bill or a major car repair, or you become involved with someone who doesn't have a high income or perhaps any income, they can alter those ratios pretty quickly. So if you stick to those two numbers, 28% for total debt outside of a mortgage, 36% with a mortgage, you'll avoid having too much debt.
In your experience, what is the most common mistake that people in their 20s and 30s make with their personal finances?
They obligate future income without realizing it. They buy a car that they really can't afford. They spend money they really don't have, assuming that they'll be able to pay off the credit card bill easily. They buy condos before they can really afford to, and they become obligated to make those future payments with income they haven't yet earned. And when other expenses come up, they discover they can't afford it because they've got this car payment, they've got the rent payment, they've already spent money on clothes. And now when their friends say, let's go to the beach for the summer, they say, okay, and they have no choice but to use credit cards to pay for it because they've already obligated their income. And they get into a downward spiral that becomes very difficult to get out of. So stay flexible, minimize your obligations of your income so that you can stay fluid and flexible and agile so that you don't run into that trap.
What is the penalty for failing to withdraw the correct amount from your IRA after you reach age 70 and a half? A, 10%, B, 15%, C, 25%, or D, 50%? We'll be back with the answer right after this.
Where can we find the solution to our energy needs? Scientist Greg Mariniak says we need to look up, way up. You've been heavily involved in the privatization of space and space exploration. The notion these days is that you no longer need a government agency, NASA, to catapult humans into space. Instead, the private sector is very busy doing it these days. talk about the future of space in a privatized world.
So everybody knew back in the, let's say, the early 90s that only governments could put humans into space. Just like everybody knew in the 1920s that flying was for daredevils and flying fools. Events changed the way everybody thought about it. There's a commercial spacecraft, Dragon capsule made by Elon Musk's SpaceX company, supplying space station. And when you think about it, space is a infinite ocean of energy and material resources, and we're all worried about our little zero-sum game here on planet Earth. But we act as if space is not related to the Earth. We have, in our own minds, just separated ourselves, and that's as silly as as if Pacific Islanders decided they had nothing to do with the ocean. If the problem is that most of the people in the world live in cities and they need electricity, and those cities are shadowed by the Earth itself from the sun most of the time, how will they get their solar power when it's night? Well, it turns out you could put a vehicle, a collector in space, in high orbit around the Earth, and let it radio the energy down to the surface, and it's extremely efficient.
So space is the cleanest energy.
We can use the abundant resources that surround the Earth in space to provide clean energy to the surface of the Earth with the least environmental impact and great economic benefit. But that only happens if we can open up the transportation to space. And that was really what was behind the X Prize. It wasn't just so rich folks could fly in space. It was so the rich folks could fly in space and bring the cost down so the rest of us could go, and so that we could use materials such as from Earth's offshore island, the moon, or the asteroids that are just laying on top of the plateau of free space, instead of having to drag things up from the Earth's gravity well at $10,000 a pound, which is what it costs now to put things in space. So we can completely transform the way we do things, not only in space, but on the Earth, if we get smart about interacting with the environment around us. And in fact, I like to say that space is the environment's environment. And if we want to save the environment of the Earth or protect it, we need to be cognizant of what surrounds it.
And clearly you're arguing the exploration of space and the development of technologies to get us into space with greater frequency and broader use is an essential element for the preservation and protection of our species on this planet.
It absolutely is, just in the same sense that pre-Renaissance people didn't think that those far lands really meant anything, if they even knew that there were far lands. But just as opening up the world was a benefit to the old world, space is a quasi-infinite new world.
NASA's budget is very small as a percentage of the total federal spending. There has often been an argument that it's a waste of money, that we have so many immediate problems here on Earth. Why are we squandering money on this fancy science and for no other purpose than to plant a flag on the moon and so on? How do you respond to that concern?
Well, first of all, NASA's budget is minuscule. There are oil rigs in the deep ocean places that cost as much as a NASA budget, or a significant fraction of a NASA budget. I think of NASA's budget as a pilot light for all these other activities. Just as the DOE research is important to the market, NASA's research is important. And by the way, I think NASA shouldn't spend its money on flags and footprints missions to Mars, for example. It's complete and utter waste of time to replicate Apollo-style activity in space. On the other hand, I think that getting a real toehold in space to do real things and probably in cooperation with the private sector, to truly pioneer space is a brilliant thing for NASA to do, and there are a lot of activities.
Well, give me a couple of examples. You mentioned one of harnessing energy from the sun and delivering it to Earth when that part of the planet is in darkness. What are some of the other practical applications of going to space that have to offer us?
Well, I mean, for starters, I think a good model is what happened in the early years of spaceflight. There is one large industry that's making money every day using space, and it was pioneered by the government, but it transitioned to be a now completely private activity, and that's telecommunications. The original satellite activity was government in nature, and now that's totally changed. And going forward into the future, we just had this very dramatic set of events in recent memory now of in one day we had a big old asteroid come screaming by closer than those telecommunication satellites in geostationary orbit. And the same day, a fireball caused by a large meteorite, actually it's a tiny meteorite, but moving really fast, about 10 miles a second, demonstrated that we don't live in a cosmically quiet neighborhood. We just think we do because we haven't been paying close attention. In the early 90s, we saw Jupiter get hit by cosmic stuff that if that had hit the Earth, it would have been a big deal. We're just now kind of becoming alert to it because we're looking. So saving the Earth from cosmic catastrophe is a nice thing to do. The same tool set that lets you do that also lets you use those resources. This is the tool set that lets you see asteroids and give them a little nudge if they're going to be problematic. So lets you bring resources from them.
And so we need to be aware of the asteroids partly because we can grab their natural resources for our use and to ward them off so they don't hit us.
Right, and so that's an area where government and private industry both can play a significant role.
Terrific. Greg, thanks so much.
Thank you.
From robots to 4D printing, each week on The Truth About Money, we'll examine the financial implications of technologies like these and how they're reshaping our world.
What is the penalty for failing to withdraw the correct amount from your IRA after you reach age 70 and a half? The answer is D, 50%.
Let's take a question from a listener of my weekly radio show. Howard is on the phone.
My question is, my wife was laid off from a large retail outfit that's not doing real well right now, and her 401k was in their stock. So she called Vanguard to do a rollover. Mm-hmm. They rolled over part of it because they said the taxes were paid on part of it, and they couldn't roll that over into a regular IRA.
Gotcha. So there was both pre-tax and after-tax contributions.
Right.
Okay.
So they did the pre-tax they just opened a Vanguard account, put it into a money market fund until she gets settled, and then they sent her a check for the tax-paid one.
Okay.
What she'd like to know is what should she do with the other one? Should she do a Roth IRA with that one?
How much money are we talking about?
The total was 23, so they put like 11 into the regular IRA, and they sent her a check for the other 10 or 11.
Okay, so she has two choices.
Well, number one is she can spend it.
Right, there's choice number one.
Right.
There's no taxes due on it, so you have that flexibility. Right. Number two is you could invest it. A Roth IRA maybe is something that you can look at, but the problem is you can't put it all into a Roth because you've got too much money to go into a Roth in any given year.
And why not just roll it over to a non-deductible IRA?
Well,
if it came out of essentially a non-deductible contribution in the retirement account, why not roll it over to a similar type of IRA?
Well, I think that could be an option, but you complicate your tax situation. Assuming you don't have any other non-deductible type accounts, Howard, you've got to file an 8606. Both at the time you make the contribution and in future years. Our attitude is it's of very little value. So here's some irony, though. Howard, the money that went to the IRA, so many people I talk to act like, this is the better money because I have a tax deduction when I put the money in. I'm not taxed as it goes. And this money that got paid to me, oh boy, this is not as valuable. It's really not the case because that money, the 10 grand or so, that's worth $10,000 to you and your wife, Howard. The 11 grand that went to the IRA, well, it's worth 11, but after it comes out, you pay taxes on it, it's worth less. So assuming you're not planning on spending the money, you don't need it for cash reserves, that means you need to invest it. And that might mean a joint account. Do you have any after tax joint money with your wife right now?
No.
Okay.
Well, now's an opportunity to create such an account. Or, since this money was in your wife's name, have her create an account so the money stays in her name only. But either way, the two fundamental choices, Anderson suggested you can just spend it.
Yep.
And Brandon suggests you could instead save it for the future. The fact that it won't be in a retirement account anymore, so what? So
would a good place be would a CD or something be a good place to put it?
Oh, well, now we're getting into a whole nother conversation of where do I invest it? And that's the right question to be asking, so I'm glad you are. It's a little bit beyond the purview of what we can do in 30 seconds on the radio here, but basically is this. We need to figure out how much money do you need to accumulate by the time you retire, and how much money have you accumulated so far to determine whether or not this extra 10 grand needs to go into that piggy bank, or whether you can afford to just spend it and enjoy it right now. And if you are going to save it and invest it, where? We want to look at all of the money you've got in all of the different investment accounts and so on to figure out, should you invest this money in stocks or bonds or real estate or foreign securities or bank CDs? How should the money be invested? And to answer that question, you want to meet with a financial advisor who can take a look at your situation on a comprehensive basis and give you a set of recommendations based on your exact circumstances. So you're asking the right question, and I would encourage you to talk with a financial advisor who can help you figure that out. Most of us have heard the joke, "I'm so broke I can't pay attention." Well, here are some real funny money moments from Dangerfield's Comedy Club in New York.
After you get married, people go, "How do you like marriage?" You know, it's all right. I love her, but I thought it would be better. I thought that we'd have more money. Because that's what you think when you get married. It's not the reason you get married, but you think, I have money, she has money, together, we'll have more money, right? And then you start thinking, I'm gonna get all that wedding money. Right? Anyone that's got married, you get excited, I'm gonna get all that wedding money, like it's something mythological, like a minotaur, a unicorn, and a 401k and a CD. But then you end up taking that money and spending it on your wedding and your honeymoon and the 3 weeks of ordering in when you get back from your honeymoon because you're depressed, you're no longer in Jamaica. But then you realize that you forgot to incorporate that she also has debt. And now she has debt, and you have debt, and you have a lot of debt. A lot of debt, till death do us part.
If you could ask a financial advisor just one question, what would it be? Here's one we hear from a lot of people. What do people find most intimidating about money?
The first meeting can be kind of rough. We're talking about life insurance, long-term care, investments. A lot of them walked out confused because there's so much to carry and so much to think about. But after the second and third meeting, it kind of makes sense. And then we review on an ongoing basis.
Probably that they've never learned anything about it. There's never any education in school. It's a learn as you go, which is a frightening way to do it. Imagine the first time you're driving, you're thrown out on the Autobahn. That'd be terrifying. So it's just never getting an understanding of how money works.
They may be afraid that they don't want to hear the truth about where they are financially. So we need to make sure they get, get them comfortable and relax a little bit, get something to drink, and then start to talk and say, hey, it's better to start now than never. So we tend to try to put them at ease, and I think we do a pretty good job of doing that.
How can you put yourself at ease? My wife and business partner, Jean, gives us a little insight in the other side of money.
The beginner's mind is someone that doesn't have expectations and preconceptions. The beginner's mind is someone that doesn't judge or have prejudices. The beginner's mind is someone that's willing to look at every aspect of every moment of their day. We are so conditioned to automatically go back to something that happened in the past. It could be, I saw a bad movie at XYZ Theater, therefore I never want to go back to XYZ Theater. There's always something new and wonderful that could happen. But when we look at it with a prejudice, with a judgment that, well, since it was bad last time, therefore it's going to be bad this time, we kind of lose the opportunity of something new and exciting happening in our day. So the beginner's mind is just being open to new experiences. What can be new? Maybe it's a different route to work, or maybe it's trying a different style of clothes when you go shopping. Well, life will be a whole lot more fun and a whole lot more relaxing if we can just step back and say, oh, I'm going to try to experience and enjoy any and all new things that come my way each day. And when we're open to seeing what's new and what's around us, the flowers might be blooming that day, or there might be just something new on our way to work. When we've stopped seeing the beauty around us, we've really kind of stopped living a beautiful life and a happy life.
Thanks, Jean, for reminding us that this TV show is more personal than finance. And that's our show for today. I'm Ric Edelman. For The Truth About Money, see you next time. To learn more about the topics we discussed on this episode and a chance to ask your questions, visit our website at truthaboutmoneytv.com. And stay connected by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter.